Yaniv lost, and sanity finally won. That's right. The Titanic Tranner of Canada, who's been shocking the world with their bizarre quest for a silky smooth scrotum since March of 2018, has finally found their comeuppance in the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal. Now, Yaniv took 15 beauticians to court over a refusal to wax their feminine testicles, as well as also their arms and their legs, which are covered in the case itself. So what I want to discuss in this video is, first of all, just how brilliant news this is. As someone who has been covering Yaniv for quite some time now, to finally see this all kind of go up in smoke is brilliant. But also want to have a bit of a look at what the judgment says, as well as where does this leave Yaniv for the future. So, first of all, let's have a quick look into the actual judgment itself. As you can see, it's indexed as Jessica Yaniv against various waxing salons. Individuals include Sandeep Benapal, Suki Hera, Marcia De Silva, Hina Moyne, Pam Dooley, Judy Tran, and Merle Norman. The Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms represented 3 people in total, so that is Sandeep Benapal, Hera Gill, and Marcia Karamba. In the judgment, the member, who is basically the judge of it, indicated that Jessica Yaniv is a transgender woman, which is just seems to be her making a statement on that. Anyone who's been following my channel knows that's something which I kind of disagree with. I don't think that Yaniv is a trans woman. I think that Yaniv is an opportunist who saw the opening and the way that trans activists have been acting over the last couple of years as a way of being able to get some notoriety, and it definitely worked. Yaniv has become a worldwide name because of their bizarre antics. So I am quite sceptical of their claims. Bear in mind as well, Yaniv has been saying that they are intersex, that they've been getting periods since they're 14 years old, despite being biologically male, and also seems to be having periods every other week and celebrating National Period Day, because of course Yaniv, that is a sacred day for the Yaniv family. But I digress. It continues by reiterating a bit of what the case is about, saying all the respondents operate businesses which offer waxing services. Yaniv requested waxing services from each of the respondents. In 5 cases, waxing of the scrotum was requested. In 2, it was arms and legs. In each of the case, Yaniv told the respondent that they were a trans woman, and the respondent refused to provide Yaniv with service. Yaniv says the refusal to serve is discrimination on the basis of gender identity and expression. Now, interestingly enough, the judgment also picks up on a point which a lot of people have noticed, and that's with Yaniv's attitudes towards ethnic minority women. I'm sure a lot of you might have realised that the names that I read out at the start, not many of them sound particularly white, do they? Well, it's addressed here, saying, with one exception, all the respondents are women who advertise services through Facebook Marketplace. They were either providing the service out of their home or in the client's home. Most of them presented as racialized, with English not their first language. Only 3 respondents presented a defense to Yaniv's complaints, and these characteristics are significant because they support the judge's conclusion that Yaniv has engaged in a pattern of filing human rights complaints which target small businesses for personal financial gain, which Yaniv has form for doing, and/or to punish certain ethnic groups, which Yaniv perceives as hostile to the rights of LGBTQIA++ people. Now, I think that Yaniv saying that these people are hostile to the LGBT community is simply a cover for Yaniv's own racism. I don't think that your average Sikh who is waxing people as a little beauty parlor in their home is a threat to the lives of the numerous trans people who live in Canada. I think that she's just waxing. But Yaniv has a particular hatred for Sikhs and Muslims, at least from the messages that we've been able to see, Yaniv points out. So I do think that some of this was indeed based on racism, and it is great to see that this was also called out. Now, the decision announces that there were two different categories, one for genital waxing and one's for the arms and legs. In the genital waxing cases, she found that the scrotum waxing was not a service customarily provided by the respondents. As such, they did not deny Miss Yaniv a service and did not discriminate against them. The complaints were therefore dismissed. And in the arm and leg waxing cases, it was found that Yaniv filed the complaints for improper purposes. Gee, what a surprise. I mean, personally, I think that all of them were filed for improper purposes, but it's especially amazing for the scrotum ones because they actually did get in a Brazilian wax specialist to discuss this. And they came to the conclusion that waxing testicles is very different from waxing labia. Gee, who would have thought? Apparently not Yaniv, for some weird reason. You know, and you would have thought Yaniv would be a specialist on this, what with their obsession with periods. Now, the best news of all, however, the three respondents which presented a defence were all represented by Jay Cameron and Brandon Langholm of the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms. Yaniv has applied for an order of costs against these respondents arising out of conduct which was attributed to Mr Cameron and the JCCF. And now if anyone has been following Yaniv, which I'm sure a lot of you have been, it's very rich for Yaniv to complain about other people's conduct. Yaniv applied for costs specifically against one of the respondents, which is Sukhdeep Hera. Not only was Yaniv's applications for costs dismissed, not only does Yaniv not get any money here, because Yaniv was found to have engaged in improper conduct during the course of the complaint, Yaniv was ordered to pay the represented respondents $2,000 each. Not only has this escapade been an absolute failure for Yaniv and them not getting their way, it's cost them financially. That is karma. That is so much deserved. And if anything, these poor women involved deserve more from this monster. Yaniv has ruined people's businesses. Yaniv has terrorized people online, accusing them of all sorts of spurious accusations, whilst at the same time being a barely closeted racist and fetishist. And this feels as though it could have gone either way at many points. We've seen how crazy trans activism has been over the last couple of years. I mean, I've been covering a lot of it. And so it wouldn't have surprised me if they had ruled in Yaniv's favour for that reason, despite Yaniv's arguments being consistently terrible every single time, whether it's bringing up bizarre allegations of having periods at the age of 14, which we know aren't true, or Mama Yaniv wandering into various hearings and starting slanging matches with various people, including Jessica Yaniv themselves. The thing was a clown show, and had Yaniv won, it wouldn't have been because of Yaniv's competence. Anyone who saw Yaniv's debate against Blair White knows that Yaniv cannot debate for anything and had to resort to pulling out a taser to kind of think as though that was going to win some sort of points, which ended up in an arrest. Brilliantly. So Yaniv, but the fact is, sanity did prevail. This shouldn't feel as much of a win, really, because this kind of thing shouldn't have happened in the first place. This should never have been an acceptable complaint to hear. Of course, there is a difference between waxing male genitals and female genitals. Anyone with a brain can tell you that. And it says a lot about the craziness of trans activism that this got to that point in the first place. But I think that this ultimately puts an end to not just a bizarre saga of waxing, but maybe the end of Yaniv. Now, I say this because this was the only real legitimate claim to fame which Yaniv has, the person who is bringing an incredibly bizarre case to a human rights tribunal. The other reasons why Yaniv is known are because of the dodgy messages they've been sending women about periods, the fairly predatory behaviour that they've done to some people who are very young, if not under the age of consent at times. And a lot of this is documented. And so, without the waxing case, okay, Yaniv has tried some other escapades, including putting themselves up for various awards or various beauty pageants. But this was the golden goose. And it didn't work out the way Yaniv expected. And as someone who has followed Yaniv for a while, I know that Yaniv's other cases that have gone to court of various spurious complaints, they never really get anywhere. This was the case that gave them power. Remember that this was the case that Yaniv requested anonymity for and was able to get people removed from social media, including Meghan Murphy, who is still not allowed back on Twitter, by the way, which is bizarre, but current year. And so this has, in a way, neutered Yaniv. So what else do they have left? Dodgy allegations. Now, that's not going to give you fame. That's not going to get you interviewed on TV. There's a difference between, you're bringing this bizarre case, let's hear a lot about it, and you've been messaging young women about periods and how much you love them. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it? So what else is Yaniv going to do? What other adventures are going to unfold? We're going to see a lot of desperate attempts at relevance from Yaniv. There's probably going to be more, I've put myself forward for an award, or I've been nominated for this, or maybe even some other court cases. I know that Yaniv has had a few in the pipeline, but these are just about misgendering, and they probably won't go anywhere either. This was Yaniv's call to relevance. Had Yaniv won, this would have changed everything. You would have seen Yaniv being legitimised as a trans activist. And because that hasn't happened, there's nothing else for them to do except continue their descent downwards. Now, Yaniv is going to be consistently calling for attention more and more. We're going to see a lot more calls about periods, about how they find young people attractive, the typical behaviour that we've all seen, which is disturbing. But hopefully that kind of thing won't go on for too much longer. Hopefully, if Yaniv has indeed been doing what we all pretty much think has been happening, they will be arrested by the police. But I think that as far as Yaniv's actual power over ruining people's lives, I think that's now gone. Yaniv is no longer relevant. And that is a cause to celebrate, if there ever was one. But what do you think of this brilliant news? And someone who has been following Yaniv for a long time, it's, this is simply brilliant. But if you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe. Please also share the video. YouTube seems to have been limiting my audiences of late, so that kind of thing really helps me out. You can also support me on Patreon and Subscribestar, and you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you once again, and I'll see you all next time. And a special thanks to Alex Meadows, Dan Norman, James C. George, Liz Udesu, Nova B, Ricardo Jose, Rose Hypnol, Stephen, The Poor of Rizzo, Traname Girl, Green Potato Chips, Casey Adolson, Leisha, James UK, Moy Felicita, and the rest of my supporters on Patreon and Subscribestar.